Hello, everyone. How's it going?
Hello.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming to the Rareskills office hour. I think I see some people from outside the community joining, which is pretty cool. So we'll just hop right into it. Today, the team from Audit Wizard is presenting the tool. So, definitely help you in terms of writing more secure contracts and catching more bugs. So definitely wanted you guys to see it. So I believe Joe is presenting. Can you take it away?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Um, Wanted to start, first of all, giving you guys a little bit of background about myself, why we built Audit Wizard, what it's for. So for me, my background, I spent about 8 years in Web 2 as a security engineer. I spent a lot of time helping developers stay secure, reviewing their code. Basically, was an in-house auditor for a lot of big tech companies. So I did a lot of security work, a lot of audits, a lot of reading code, and in that time, I was using developer tools, IDEs, and such to do the security work, and mixing that with all the different security tools that I wanted to use, that I had to use, um, and that caused a lot of context switching, a lot of quality of life was missing. There's a lot of overhead. So I always felt really, really odd, like kind of misplaced, like I'm a security person in a developer's world. Um, so fast forward a little bit from there, I started dipping my toes into Web3 about 2 or 3 years ago. I started doing freelance smart contract audits just to kind of like, transfer my skills from the Web 2 space into Web 3, which I found pretty interesting when they first kind of get introduced to Web 3. I was aping into some things I didn't understand. Um, Losing and projects, that I was aping into. And I was pretty appalled, honestly, at what I saw. People were, locking up millions in value from their users and hadn't thought about security at all. Even the quality of their code was not that great. So I started putting together, a typical process of doing a complete audit of these contracts. I started, claiming some bug bounties of what I was finding. I was using all the different tools that are available, you know, running static analyzers, writing proof of concept tests, etc. With Foundry and everything. But all the tools were clunky command line interfaces that spit out walls of text at you. They were hard to sort of get to work for each and every use case. There's a lot of kind of setup work, and people don't set up their dependencies or their projects always in a great way. So I felt the tools were just underdeveloped, difficult to use. At least in an easy, clean way that made it valuable to use them over just doing manual review. So with that in mind, I met my co-founders at a conference and shared these complaints with them and said basically, I'm doing security work and I hate all these things, and I wish they could be better, and I wish they could be just like tool that would solve all these problems. So we said to ourselves, why not build that? So I spent a lot of time kind of iterating on that idea, like what it would be, how it would look, and we came up with Audit Wizard. So basically, the idea behind Audit Wizard is it's a tool built specifically with security work in mind. So as an auditor, you get easy access to tools you know and love. You're introduced to new innovations that help you do your work. Um, it just adds all that quality of life. Like you're not using developer tools to do your security work anymore. And then as a developer, you come to use Audit Wizard, you can get access to the deep insights using all these tools, using AI, security analysis tools, um, and that helps you build securely from day one. And also, you can sort of like pre-audit your code, so when you go and get an audit, you're not just catching all the low-hanging fruit. You'll get sort of meaningful results. And in the meantime, you keep yourself secure and you don't dig yourself any holes. So that's sort of the background of Audit Wizard, why we built it, what it does. So now I can, let me share my screen here and give you guys a demo of it in action. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Should be able to see.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. All right. So we have Audit Wizard open here. So this is the face of Audit Wizard when you first open it. We have a lot of things you can do to get started. Like you can look at different ongoing contests. With excuse me, with Code Arena, Sherlock, Codehawks, etc. They're all here. You can just click and sort of start digging into those if you want. We have bounties as well. We have our own sort of find the bug challenges that we run. But to start, I want to show you guys just importing a basic GitHub project. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in here. Okay, so I have my project loaded in. I can look through it just like a standard, web-based IDE. I can navigate through it, look at all the different files. We have a few tools here. So we have this AI assistant, so I can ask it different things about the code base. It can help me get some insights. So I can ask it, what is this contract doing? It'll give me like a nice little summary, give me a breakdown of everything. I can also ask it more security-based questions, like what are the concerns of the project? I can also chat with it, just type any question I have at all, like how could the update greeting function be attacked? I'll ask it this question. Yeah, this isn't a really complex function here, so it's probably kind of stretching to find an answer. But it does give me one, right? So you can sort of use this as like your auditing partner. It has all the context of Solidity and of the code, so you can ask it questions and dig into that, and you can also use it to sort of think through threats and sort of explore things that way. Next thing to show you is our scanning tool. So we have collected different open source scanning tools. Slither is the first one we have here. We have other ones we're working on. Ideally, this will be a handful of different tools, and those are coming very soon. Actually, we have another one we're going to be releasing within a week. But I'll just go ahead and start with Slither here to show you guys. This is sort of a small code base, so there's only a few issues. But rather than running Slither in command line and getting a wall of text, we can now actually see the results laid on top of our code, and we can filter and sort through them. So there's a bunch of informational stuff. There's one low. I can filter those out if I want and say I just want to focus on the high one. Okay, so there's maybe something I want to look into here. So that's an easy way to sort of run these analysis tools, and they do have, you have to sort of triage the results. These aren't perfect, but they give you good places to look. All right. And then we have this sort of graphing feature here where you can, oh, sorry, let me run it on something that actually has some calls here. Yeah, so you can see like I have my test function. For something more complex, this might help you sort of understand the overall project. For this one, it's quite simple though. You can see the different flows within my test function and also within the contract that I'm testing. That can help you understand larger code bases. We have this inspection tool where I can, look at different things here, like the storage slot layout, what it would be on chain. So if I am curious about sort of if I could pack my variables in a different way and save some gas, or maybe there's like some security implication to my slots being in a certain order. I can look into that. If we had imported this project via an on-chain address, we would have on-chain values that we could look at, so we could see like what's the value of version right now. We could look that up here. We can also dig through the AST if we care to, dive really deep on that. And then one of our more exciting features here is the testing feature. So first of all, we have a couple pre-written tests in our Foundry project. You can see them here. We can go ahead and just run all of those. And you can see they all passed. That was for this test. All of those passed. And if I want to sort of dig into those, I can open up and I can look at the trace and I can sort of see what happened. And we're working on right now. You do kind of get the similar output to what Foundry gives you in the command line. We're working on making this sort of an interactive experience, so it's a little bit more easily read. But for now, you can dig into the trace as normal. And so that's existing tests. You can also write your own tests. Let me add a new test here. And the nice thing is we have this AI integration to help you write your tests. So I'm going to target the hello world function here, the contract, I should say. And I'm going to say write a test for each function in this contract. Just keeping it pretty simple. And ask it to generate my tests. It'll take a little bit to just write all this out here. Okay, and then now I can save that. Then I go back to my test tab, and there it is. We have my two tests, test greet, test update greeting. I can go ahead and run them. And we can look at the trace there. So it just ran, from what AI gave me, which is pretty nice. Sometimes you do have to change a small, like 1 or 2 characters in the import statements. But more often than not, it will just work for you. So it's a great way to get started with setting up your tests. If you want to write any proof of concepts, it's also a great way to sort of, easily hook into your contracts and get some things scaffolded. We also have coming pretty soon AI completions. So you can, as you're writing your code, you can leverage the AI to sort of complete the rest of the function or whatever you want. So yeah, that's all of the different tools you can run. And then as you're sort of reviewing your code, you can add annotations. So if you're like this notepad, I can add a note. For possible. So now my code is annotated. So the idea is you can, in Audit Wizard, go through your whole project, analyze everything, write some annotations, and in the end, you can sort of generate a report, if you so choose. So that's Audit Wizard in a nutshell. That's what we have right now. We're currently in beta, so you can go to Audit Wizard right now, app.auditwizard.io. You can test this out in the same way I've showed you just now. But that's just the beginning. As I said, we're still in beta, and we're going to be launching a fully realized version of the product in a few months. To give you sort of a sneak peek on what's coming then, some future features we have coming up are transaction simulation with Tenderly. So we have a Tenderly integration that we've currently built out and are working on deploying pretty soon here. where you can run simulations for your contracts, whether they be imported from GitHub or from on-chain. You can simulate a transaction against that code. And then in the same way you had your traces here in tests, you can also look at the traces of those Tenderly simulations. We have more, as I said, more scanning tools coming, not just Mithril and Pyrometer, but many more we have planned. So there'll be a nice handful of those, and there'll be just one button you can click to sort of run everything against your entire code base. Beyond that, you'll be able to, with a custom scanning engine we're developing, you'll be able to define your own detectors using simple logic. So you don't have to know exactly how Slither works, exactly how Analyzer or Mithril works. You can just define a simple pattern using various different methods. AI prompts, regex, AST. Graphing tool that allows you to sort of filter and visualize code execution flows. Because if you're auditing a code contract, files I've seen are over 1,000 lines long. So it's kind of difficult to understand at a glance the entire, how everything's working together, how everything interacts. So we'll have a graph where you can sort of explore that, and you can filter things out that don't really matter. Like in that graph that I showed you, this one, oops, let me show you this one. If this is like a library or something, we could cut all that out, filter it out, and say, I only care about stuff in this test contract, and I want to focus on that. And then maybe I only care about the functions that change value, so filter out all the rest. And then you can zoom in. Right now you can click on these and you can sort of see the code. The future will be the code kind of sits here already, and you can see what lines are calling what functions, etc. So lots more to come beyond that, but those are kind of the highlights. And I guess I'll stop there for if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I have a question. With the tests, I'm wondering, like, I'm assuming you can ask it the AI to write fuzz testing, and I'm wondering how like detailed you can get with the AI and asking about the tests.
Yeah. So right now it's pretty open-ended, right? Like we allow you to provide your own prompt, so you can kind of make it whatever you want. So yes, you could ask it to write fuzz tests for you. You could ask it to like determine the different properties or invariants you wanna target for that. Um, it has the context of the project, so it's really whatever you want it to do, it can produce that for you. And then Foundry can just run fuzz tests, so that should just work for you if you want to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, this is a great tool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Sorry, is there any other questions?
yeah, sorry, I just joined. I had another meeting before, so sorry about that. But thanks a lot for the presentation. Maybe you have already talked about that. So I'm sorry when when I'm asking this question again. Then, on which AI models is your tool currently based, or do you use several AI tools?
Yeah, it's a GPT-4 model, and we just have one sort of unified AI for now.
Got it. And will you, that in future, will you rely on GPT solely, or are you also exploring like other AI models here?
Yeah, I think we're definitely exploring and researching what works best. And obviously, as the platform grows, our AI capabilities will grow as well. Can't say I have any specific answers to how we're going to achieve that now. But the future will be just better results through all these AI integrations that exist now.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Oh, just curious to know what the cost model.
Yeah, one of our one of our like the ways we operate is for AI specifically. We're not targeting specifically building AI features, but we start with features and tools that we know are impactful and ones that we personally love, and then we think about how can AI play a hand in making that experience better, adding some quality of life, getting some boilerplate out of the way, adding additional insights. So we kind of have AI baked into all the different areas of Audit Wizard, and it's there just sort of as like an assistant for you to help you move things along. The things you would already be doing, you can kind of augment that and speed up the process. That's the idea. So we'll be adding many more tools and many more AI integrations in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I see.
Yeah,
Looks
I
like
had
you
a
had a
question.
question, Hunter, in the chat of will this be a paid service in the future or free? That's a really good question. As I said, right now we're in beta, which means it's currently free. We're looking for people to beta test and give their feedback. So please feel free to give it a try, join our Discord server, let us know what you think. But as I said, in about a few months from now, perhaps around 3 or 4, we are looking to exit beta into a more stable production version of Audit Wizard. And what does that mean? It means we're going to be adding a paid version of it. So there will always be a free version, right? A lot of what we've added is open source tools with quality of life around them. We won't be charging for that, but we do have our own sort of unique, bespoke features and different services that we're going to be adding to the platform. Like in the future, you can you can have much higher AI rate limits. You can perhaps run fuzzing tests much longer, things like that you might want to pay for, that you might get a taste of in the free version. You might be able to do a little bit of work in the free version, but if you're a serious auditor doing continuous work, you'll want that pro version. And there's much more that goes into it as well, but you'll have to see when we launch what we're going to be bringing then. All right. Any other questions about Audit Wizard, or does anyone have anything they want to ask about security
Yeah, I
or
have a
my
quick
background or
question.
anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have a desktop version of this, or is it all browser-based?
Great question. Currently browser-based. There hasn't been a huge reason to build a desktop version as of yet. We have heard some people ask about it, and I don't think it would be all that difficult to eventually produce one, but no plans for that as of yet.
Okay.
But it is something we could offer in the future. Yeah, and in addition to that, in the future we are exploring adding things like VS Code integrations, an extension, and it won't have the full power of everything that's in Audit Wizard, but it can give you sort of an easy link to swap between the two, to use them in tandem, and just integrate with the tools that you use now. a little bit better. So you don't have to leave your current environment to enjoy the benefits of Audit Wizard.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Great. Is there anything else? Does anyone have anything they wanted to ask about Audit Wizard or the future? Or would like me to go back and zoom in on anything from the demo?
So if it's browser based, are you able to save the code and come back to it in some way? Not sure if I missed that part.
What do you mean by save the code? Like the tests you're writing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So it is like account based. So you kind of save your work and that's stored on the server. So that's actually a great question that I'm glad you asked, because one thing I didn't mention is that all that work I did, running those Foundry tests, running the Slither scan and everything, I can go to a different device, even my phone if I wanted to, and log into Audit Wizard, and I can do the exact same things. And I can see the work that I had done. So I could look at the traces of the Foundry tests I had already run. I can do that on my phone after running it on my desktop. So the work is persisted. Right now you can write tests. It's not really set up to build contracts yet because it's primarily meant for security work and analysis. But that might be coming in the future. But yeah, all the work you do in tests is persisted. And your annotations and the notes you write, whiteboards you create. That was a feature I didn't show, but you can draw up a little whiteboard diagram of different things. That's all saved and persisted.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question related to that.
Sure.
So what if I'm working on different versions, like I'm working with a Git repo, and I make a change. Is it possible to have assets or notations under Git control so that I can view the evolution of an audit or discoveries through Git history?
Right. So kind of to have those annotations, I guess, sort of exported to Git. Is that what you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we are actually working on providing an experience around there. So I showed you the different scanning tools. So the first thing is we're working on normalizing all the outputs from those tools to a common format that
Excellent.
that works really
Okay.
well with GitHub. It's called Serif.
Hmm.
And our engineer Tomer is working on all of our backend tools to kind of put that together so that you could essentially run all the different tools in Audit Wizard, and you could sort of export those as issues to GitHub and link that to your GitHub repo.
Oh, that's excellent. It would be great. Yeah, it's something that I'm looking for projects that I'm involved with, where I could run a tool and have the assets related to a particular commit of the project.
Yeah, absolutely. And other things on that note that we're looking into is adding perhaps like a Git commit hook. So whenever you create a PR or do a commit, you can rerun all the tools on the new changes, and then sort of look at the diff, right, of like what vulnerabilities were, or sorry, what tool outputs were removed and what was added.
Oh, that's awesome. You mentioned the serif format.
Hmm.
I'm not familiar with that. I thought I was, but when I looked it up, I was like, wrong. Do you have a link to that, please?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up here. All right. I'll drop it in the chat now. Oh, Tomer beat me to it. Thank you, Tomer. Yeah, so there's things we're working on, but the future of that will be your experience sort of using GitHub and Audit Wizard together can be seamless.
Is it general? What are we using?
Yeah,
Sorry.
in the left sidebar
Mm.
where it says office hours, if you hover over
Mhm.
that, there's an open chat bubble under voice chat in Discord. Yeah, it's a little bit tucked away.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I can
You
also
have to hit
just
the messaging icon next to the office hour channel. So there's the under voice chat, there's office hours, and then there's a SMS icon. If you hover over it, it says open chat.
There we go. Cool. Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you, Tom. And while I'm at it, in integrations, any, I mean, this is getting to business territory, but any chance of integrating this with Remix?
It's not something we've actually thought of, to be honest. I mean, I did say that a VS Code extension is something we're entertaining, and perhaps that might come in the future. Remix might be included as well. I think it really
Okay.
just depends on the demand, and also there's a lot of other stuff we want to build first. So I wouldn't count on it anytime soon, but it's possible.
Sure. No worries. Great work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions?
If nobody has any questions, could you reopen the demo and just go through that again? I'd love to see how it does, if we could find something with a reentrancy.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Do you have like a contract in
I do
mind?
not. I was hoping you would. Anyone has a reentrancy issue contract on hand?
I think let me see if I can find one.
Solidity by example.
Yeah, we can. I have a damn vulnerable DeFi we could import.
Jeffrey pasted something that was that's interesting. I think it's a good one. But,
That is interesting. Currently cannot import via text snippet though. If you have a contract address or a Git URL, could throw that in.
can it do gists as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually have never tested them.
Gotcha.
So I would say probably not,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe it just works. Yeah. So we can sorry, I'm trying to find something here that I can test or ask it about. Perhaps we just start with this one. Standard ERC 721 and ask it perhaps about the security concerns. So one thing I will say about AI and our approach to AI is that Oops, sorry. We do not believe that AI is currently suited to discover vulnerabilities with confidence. So we kind of steer away from the AI being used to specifically find vulnerabilities and more to point you in the right direction and give you potentials for you to explore. So it's a very, very tough challenge to create an AI that has a good level of confidence in finding vulnerabilities. So that's, and it may not even really be possible with the amount of data we have now to have something truly meaningful that goes beyond what, a basic static analysis tool can do. So,
Awesome.
yeah, the AI assistants and Audit Wizard are really focused on giving you ideas, but it's up to you to verify if those ideas lead anywhere or not.
Yeah, I asked you to do this demo because I was interested to see the type of signals that are generated and how it's handled. Yeah, cool. I'm really glad you said that disclaimer.
Yeah.
Because that is the right way to approach this, in my opinion.
Yes, definitely. So you could see here, like when I opened up this vulnerable or potentially vulnerable ERC 721 contract, I asked it what are the security concerns, and it gives me some different things to look at. Access control, more access control, no limit on minting, no checks on the address and the mint function. That might be something that could result in some sort of vulnerability that could be exploited. A couple of other things like can't be upgraded.
Could
Maybe
we
some other informational things.
could we dive deeper on the no checks on the address mint and ask it to create a scenario that would that would
No check onto an exploit. Scenario. So it's if an attacker passes our address or a smart contract address that is not designed to interact with the ERC 721s, could play out this way. Takes a little bit of time to generate, but it'll get there.
Yeah, GPT is slow these days.
Yeah. So we can see minting to zero address. An attacker with the minter role could mint to the zero address, it would burn the minted token. That's not really that much of an issue. Minting to a smart contract, it's not prepared to handle the tokens. They could be locked up. So more informational issues, but it is able to kind of like dig down into it and
Right.
basically tell you why it would be a problem. So if there were like actual obvious security vulnerabilities, we could dig into them and it would sort of describe them to you. And then you can go ahead and go to the test function and you can say, point it to the file and say, write me a test for the mint function that explores this scenario you described.
Can we do that?
Sure. So what file is this? Damn vulnerable DeFi, damn vulnerable NFT. Write a test for the I'll have to look back and see what it said. I'll copy this function that demonstrates the exploit for no check on to address in mint. Let's get to generate that test and we'll see what it looks like. right? So mint an NFT to the 0 address as the attacker, check that it was minted with the expected ID, and then check that the owner is the 0 address. Basically, this is a kind of a non-issue, just basically saying if you mint to 0, you can't get it back. But that runs. All right, so this project's not set up to compile, but if this was a real like deployable project, we could run the test.
Okay. Excellent. What makes the project deployable?
I think just having all the dependencies properly referenced.
Gotcha. Okay. So just
Is-
it's not a script. It's just the making sure the compiler
Yes.
outputs bytecode. All right.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Exactly. Yeah,
I think for this case, if I were to see something like this, it falls in line with something where you would check for input address not being 0 and such. Still very useful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. And I picked some really basic contracts, so you can imagine when you're facing something more like what you'd see in production. Like if you have Uniswap v3 open, for example, there's a lot of complexity to it, a lot of difficult stuff to understand. But the AI can grasp that understanding basically instantly, and you can do all this stuff and explore those concepts in the same way.
For those types of complexities, when it's trying to describe it, is it textual? Can it generate like a graph, like a sequence graph, or something that would make it easier to understand? What's the format that it presents its finding?
That's a good question. Currently text.
Mm-hmm.
In the future, I said we have this like interactive graph system that we are building, and that would sort of be the vehicle for kind of showing an exploit path, or if you had some sort of behavior you wanted to demonstrate. So the process for that would be you kind of use that AI chat tool to go back and forth with the AI, ask it, dig into those vulnerabilities and sort of ask it what an exploit scenario would be. Then go to the testing tool, generate a test to kind of explore those behaviors and that exploit path, just as we did. Run that test, and then in the future, you could load the trace into the interactive graph tool, and then you could see sort of how the code flowed, and you're not bogged down by all the code that wasn't a part of that trace.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that would be great. I think graph outputs are amazing in that they allow you to discuss the domain of the problem, or like the business logic, without
Yeah.
needing to know solidity. This is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's another nice thing is like you can go in here and I didn't really use any solidity knowledge to do the things I did, right? I was just talking to the AI the whole time, and it was kind of doing the things for me. Or I was running, the Slither scanning tool, and it just kind of does the things for me. So you actually don't need a lot of expertise to go into Audit Wizard and start using these powerful tools.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things I've seen, like in my time in this industry, is that the business domain experts, or the SMEs, they know the business logic, but there's this barrier, like having to understand solidity or programming. But bringing a tool like this would allow them to bring their knowledge and expertise into the development process, which is
General. So like make the tools easily accessed, but also the knowledge and the insights more accessible to people that are not experts. And there's a lot of sort of industry knowledge and like smart contract knowledge and security knowledge you need to have to stay secure. And it's kind of can be an unreasonable expectation to expect everyone involved in building a contract to have that knowledge. So the idea behind Audit Wizard is we can provide that knowledge or help you get to that knowledge, sort of as a product.
Nice. Sounds like run with it. Intelligence.
Yeah.
For the process. Nice.
Definitely.
All right, I will stay quiet now for someone else to chime in and ask some questions.
Yeah. Thank you for your questions. Does anyone else have anything they wanted to ask or discuss? I'm also happy to take any example contracts and load them into Audit Wizard to explore if anyone wants.
No one else is asking. If someone else have a question, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, Jeff, please, by all means.
Oh, no, I thought no one else was asking questions, so I was going to wrap it up.
Oh, cool. I was going to ask Joe, having developed this tool and working as an auditor, like, can you talk from like how it helps your job, how it solves particular problems when we're dealing with complex contracts? Like, what has been your actual experience?
Yeah, I remember the last audit I did before, fully committing to building Audit Wizard, and I remember how arduous the process was. Basically, what I did was I had a very large code base, and there's about, I don't know, 50, 60 different files that I needed to look at. So I said, okay, let me, for each and every file, open it up and then write myself some notes on how it works. So I did all of that. That took a couple days. And then I break all that down into a threat model, right? And then for each of those threats, I'll go back into the file and kind of explore those ideas and think about how they might work. And then first of all, for all of that, I was like, man, I really wish I could just, for each file I opened up, just get a summary from AI instead of having to digest this code and do it myself. That would have saved me a couple of days. And the second thing is ideating all those threats. If I had something to sort of seed my threat model, that would help me, not have to think too much about the low-hanging fruit, but immediately start thinking about the deeper, complex topics that I really want to explore.
Right.
So it's just like, it's a nice shortcut to have those things available. And then next was, I never really, eh, ran static analysis tools with great regularity because getting them set up, getting the project to run and compile, and like getting my whole local environment running was a lot of overhead. And then the tools were hard to parse through the results. As I said, it's like a wall of text and you can't really triage them. So I would always sort of skip that part. But there is value in running those tools because they help you identify sort of like hotspots in the code, I like to say. There's a lot of false positives and limited value that you can get from static code analysis tools, but it does a good job of shining a light on areas of the code base that might warrant additional attention. Maybe they have more complexity or there's a lot of patterns present. So it's definitely something you should scrutinize a little bit more. So I wasn't doing that either. So I had to sort of manually figure out what files are more important to look at, where I wanted my focus areas to be. So that's more time I was spending. And then at the end, I would find myself copy and pasting a lot of code snippets into a report that I was spending a few days writing. I remember it was like 3-4 days of just writing the report after I was done with the audit. And I was like, man, I wish I could have just annotated the code and then click one button and it generates a report for me and I can just turn that in. So
You're
basically,
describing the dream.
yeah. This Audit Wizard was built from my dream as an auditor to have to do the least amount of work possible. So that's the
Right.
motivation. And then also to, augment my insights and understanding of the code so I can be a better auditor.
Oh, excellent. What about the? I love all those cases. It's pain. It's the pain that my friends who are auditors describe all the time, very frustratingly. And have you discovered? Have you been able to improve the quality of life of generating counterexamples based on, where you shed the light on the code? Because that also is time consuming.
Sorry, could you expand on that question? What do you mean?
Counterexample, like say you're auditing a contract and there's this really complex setup that would normally take you a week to develop. Has this tool been able to make that task easier?
By counter.
Like here's a particular suit. Yeah, your counterexamples. Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say though?
Has it? Have you found that this tool improved that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you meant by counterexample.
Showing an exploit. An example, the counterexample for me is the example that says, hey, if this scenario occurs, it breaks the invariance of the set of contracts.
Oh, right. So basically your proof of concept exploit. That's the idea behind the testing tool. We have some more things to build around that, like more quality of life and additional features to come there. But the idea is that you can just like click on a function and say, instead of having to go through the routes that I showed you before, where you are prompting it, you can click on a function and say, just write a quick test for this, and it will generate that, and then you can go in there, and you already have all the setup for calling that function. Which for me, when I was writing proof of concepts, as Foundry tests, is quite cumbersome to write. The setup function, mock everything up. I'd have to go look at the existing tests for the project if there were any, and sort of copy and paste their setup function, or figure it out myself. But now it's just like one button click with AI. And then the nice thing there is it will just run right away, and you can just insert whatever logic you want, and that's the thing that you want to test or that you want to prove. And so beyond that, I also mentioned that we have the Tenderly integration that we're adding very, very soon. So beyond just testing stuff in Foundry, if I want to see how something would behave on chain in something that looks like mainnet, I can build a query in Tenderly and sort of test that invariant for some counterexample of it.
Nice, really, really nice, amazing, simply amazing. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. And there's a lot more to come in Audit Wizard. We've kind of just scratched the surface on what we're building and what we're planning to build. So expect to see over the next few months and years, really, continuous updates from us, and we'll always
man,
be adding to the platform.
I am motivated enough to hang out in the Discord channel now.
Yeah, please do. We're still in beta, still looking for active feedback, and you have the opportunity to come in and ask for anything you want us to build for you, and we'll do it.
I like that. What's the link?
Joe, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned that as long as the project compiles, everything compiles, it will just work, right? So what about inline assembly, specifically you? Does it work with you?
Great question. I haven't tested UL assembly specifically, so I can't say with great confidence that the answer is yes, but I believe the answer is probably yes. So to be more specific, we do have different tools that compile when they run. So like Slither, for example, will compile slightly differently than Foundry compiles. So I would say Foundry probably yes will compile it because it works just like command line Foundry. So the testing tool will work. Slither uses Crytek compile in the back end. If you ever looked at the Slither code base, that's what they use. So if it works with those tools on their own, if it works with Slither on its own, it will work in Audit Wizard's integration with Slither, and same thing with Foundry. So yeah, I would hope that that works, but haven't tested it.
Thanks.
Yeah, and if you do get around to testing it and it does or doesn't work, please let us know, because these are all the edge cases that we can't possibly go and test everything. We're relying on you guys to help us iron out everything as part of this beta, and definitely appreciate you guys feedback and testing.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great to have an opportunity to talk about Audit Wizard and everything we're doing and really dig into the platform. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys in the Audit Wizard Discord and helping us make Audit Wizard great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.